And we've talked about this always. I don't think we've ever existed as a channel and not talked about how, for a country so eager to create veterans, we take really shitty care of them. And and this has been a problem. I've known about this for years, at least since my Indiana days and Jason having a rotation at the VA and realizing what that was like. We do not take care of our veterans at all. And you know that because have you all heard of the Wounded Warrior Program? Has everyone heard of that? Yeah.
Is that a scam?
No, I'm not suggesting that at all. No, I think it looks like a decent organization. If somebody knows otherwise, my point is that the fact that that organization exists is a testament to that we have failed our veterans. That's my point. Just like the fact that there's a Doctors Against Genocide exists is an indication that we have failed as a species. Because if we haven't, then those things wouldn't exist. We wouldn't need a Wounded Warriors Project, would we? So
Trump's VA killed a home loan program. Vets are now losing their homes because of it. Jen, if you would.
More than 10,000 veterans lost their homes to foreclosure since May of last year, when the Trump administration shut down a key safety net in the VA home loan program, according to the latest industry data. That is the highest pace of foreclosures for VA loans in a decade. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, TPS. I am so sorry to hear that. Another 90,000 vets are heading towards foreclosure. This comes after a years-long debacle inside the Department of VA has whiplashed thousands of vets between various enacted and canceled programs and left many of them on the brink of losing their homes, often through no fault of their own. Somebody's profiting off of our vets, huh? A loan backed by the VA is considered one of the most valuable benefits for military service members and has helped millions achieve homeownership. But for nearly a year now, vets have had worse protections and options than most other homeowners if they fall behind. We should have something in place to try to stem people from losing their homes, said Steve Sharp, an attorney with the nonprofit National Consumer Law Center. Again, another thing that wouldn't need to exist if we weren't trying to fuck our people, but okay. The Trump administration was warned that this would happen. The roots of the crisis go back to a mistake during the Biden administration when the VA abruptly shut down a pandemic assistance program while thousands of vets were still in the middle of it. Struggling homeowners who used the program to skip some mortgage payments suddenly had to pay those payments back all at once, an unaffordable burden for many of them. After an NPR investigation exposed the problem, the VA halted foreclosures for a year while it rolled out a fix. Okay, well, they're trying to fix this. So, yeah, where's this article from? Let's give that proper quoting. Peter, did you say where this is from?
It is
NPR. It's NPR. Again, when we use these, it's usually the best synopsis of the story that we want to show. It's not because we are taking this as the be all end all resource. You know what I mean? Plus, regarding this, it seems fairly decent. Republicans in Congress. Yeah, see, that's how you know it's NPR. They're going to blame the Republicans. Republicans in Congress, so citing costs, wanted to kill that fix and replace it with something else. But last spring, the mortgage industry warned that shutting down the program without first replacing it would be a disaster. Foreclosure, period. That's really what it's going to come to, warned Elizabeth Balse, representing the Mortgage Bankers Association at a hearing in March of 2025 before the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. Less than 2 months later, the Trump administration shut down the rescue program anyway. Of course they did. Since then, and they're so wondering why enlistment is down, why people aren't running to sign up to go fight. Since then, more than 10,000 veterans have lost their homes. That's in a year. 10,000 veterans have lost their homes through foreclosure sales, according to ICE Mortgage Tech, which tracks such data. It is unclear how many of those veterans could have avoided foreclosure through the rescue plan called VASP, or VA Servicing Purchase Program. But mortgage industry insiders told NPR it's clear that some of those vets had enough disability pay or other income and would have been able to keep their homes had VA not shut down VASP with no warning. VA officials did not respond to NPR's questions about why the agency shut down VASP without first replacing it with anything else. Well, we could tell you why. I could tell you why. They weren't able to determine a alternative that would profit the right people in a fast enough amount of time. And so they didn't come up with an alternative, because any alternative would have been a profit situation. So as soon as they come up with the right for-profit system that can really screw over veterans, like some sort of, I don't know, VA payday lender situation, then they'll have an alternative. They weren't able to properly fuck us. That's why.
Again, when it comes to the differences between the two parties, the margins are what they are. But if there is a clear-cut difference, you look at the foreclosures when Trump was in office versus when Biden was in office, and now when Trump is in office again.
Tomato.
This is pretty clear, though. I mean, it's both bad, but it's much worse with Trump.
Yeah.
Because they lie.
They're more brutal. Yes. They're more brutal. They don't soften the blow.
No.
They don't pad your fall with anything. They don't even hand you the umbrella. They just pee on you, right? I mean, and that's really what it is.
Well, they tell you it's raining.
The trajectory of veteran treatment has been shit since there's been veteran treatment.
Agreed. So, keep going.
Scroll. That might be the end.
No. Meanwhile, 90,000 more vets are currently behind on their mortgages or in the foreclosure process. VA now says it's coming out with a new program that could help many of those vets, but it still won't be up and running for months. Of course not. Housing and industry groups warn that the new program, when it is finally operational, could still leave those vets with worse options than other homeowners and push their monthly payments up by hundreds of dollars a month. Buying a house brought stability. For Leanne Leadford, one of the hardest things right now is that she's been here before and fought her way out. When you lose your home, your house, nothing else matters. Leadford's husband is a Marine who was hurt in Afghanistan. He has PTSD and a brain injury. It took a long time to get through the VA's red tape to approve his disability pay, and in the meantime, his condition got so bad he couldn't work. Nice country. At first, we didn't know whether it was a stroke or a seizure or what was going on. She had to stop working to care for her husband, and then they couldn't afford rent. The couple ended up living out of a trailer hitched to their truck with their young son for 6 months while they waited for his disability paperwork to go through. But then they got back on their feet. They even bought a house in January of 21 with a loan backed by the VA. That's just what the VA loan is supposed to be, a life-changing benefit to give veterans a leg up into the middle class and home ownership. The house is right across the street from the neighborhood's public school. So our son started at the elementary school, which Leadford said has been a huge relief. Since my husband hasn't been able to drive, I have to manage everything. While she and her husband's stress levels fell, his symptoms improved. Isn't that amazing how much stress can be an underrated killer? And their son has had a stable home. He's been able to live over half his life in our house now, and he doesn't remember all the bad years because he was too little. But just a year after they bought their house, a cascade of actions by the Department of VA entangled them and thousands of others in a years-long ordeal when they weren't permitted to pay their mortgage. That's now pushed them into foreclosure and the brink of eviction. We didn't know that the foreclosure sale went through until somebody knocked on our front door. bait and switch by the VA. For the Leadfords, this all started back in 22 when they had to replace their furnace and were hit with other costly home repairs. Their lender, Freedom Mortgage, yes, some freedom.
I was going to say that's wait. Think about that for a second. That phrase together, that name, Freedom Mortgage. If you have a mortgage, you're not free. That is the dumbest thing.
It's Jen, you got to understand. It's about freedom. It's freedom is a state of mind.
To me, literally, you literally do not have freedom when you have a mortgage.
Definitely not. For the Leadfords, this all started back in 22 and replaced Freedom Mortgage. Told them they could get help from what was called a mortgage forbearance. The COVID era program would let them pause making payments.
How generous.
She says Freedom told her the skipped payments would then be moved to the back of her loan term to be paid later when they refied or sold the house. In the wake of the pandemic, millions of Americans with other types of federally backed mortgages took advantage of such forbearance programs. But then, in October of 22, the Biden administration shut down a key part of the VA's forbearance program that had enabled them to skip the payments to be deferred. As a result, tens of thousands of veterans like the Leadfords were told they suddenly needed to pay that year's worth of payments in a lump sum. And we're like, wait a minute, what?
I want to be clear about this because, and this is the attorney in me where I feel like I have to clarify this, because there are people that will say things like, well, that was the loan they agreed to. That's the risk of that loan, like that they signed that and they agreed to that. Same thing with payday lenders, that people agreed to that. They didn't read it. They didn't read the contract. They should have read the contract. And I agree, right? Like they should have read the contract. But the fact is, the majority of these contracts shouldn't exist based on they're unconscionable. They're unconscionable. And what that means in contract language, in law language, is that it's just fucked. It's just wrong. It's predatory. And if a lot of these types of contracts actually went to court, made it to court, they very well might be found to be predatory. And that would be a problem. So when people want to question like why you would sign this loan, it's generally people that don't have other solutions. They don't have other options. They are that desperate. And this is the position that they're in. Okay. So this is somebody taking advantage of that. And even though people sign it because there's no better options, doesn't mean it's not an unconscionable contract. Okay. So that's where we are.
That would have been tens of thousands of dollars, which they and most veterans of the program couldn't afford. Or they would have to accept a refi loan at the current, much higher interest rate. Rates had sharply risen from 3 to 7%. And that new loan would have raised the Leadfords' payment about $1,000 a month. They couldn't afford either option. After NPR reported in late 23 that 40,000 vets like the Leadfords had been trapped this way, with no affordable way to get current on their loans, the VA halted foreclosures across the country for a year while it rolled out a rescue program. Once it was finally up and running by early 25, the VA's rescue program, VASP, was starting to save large numbers of vets and their families from foreclosure. It gave more than 33,000 vets who were behind on their payments new low-cost mortgages with an interest rate of 2.5. See, that's the thing about a VA loan. The interest rates are supposed to be capped and kept low so they can afford it. You give to your country, the country's supposed to give back. But we all know that's not the case. But only months after VASP was fully functional and helped vets on that scale, the Trump administration had taken office and killed it. On May 1st of 2025, amid fear of the potential costs, the VA abruptly did away with the safety net, giving mortgage servicers, and even its own VA staff just 1 week's notice. Vets who were already enrolled would keep those low-cost affordable loans, but the door was slammed shut for any more vets. The Leadfords and other vets who needed the help hadn't managed to get enrolled yet. I found out that vest was ending and I called the VA loan technician. And they didn't even know it. And they didn't even know yet. They had to figure out what was going on. Mortgage companies told NPR back
I
that
know
they
we're
would
rapping. We're rapping. Tell Lila and Pat we're rapping. Okay.
to enroll as many. No, we've got one more to cover after this.
What? No, we don't.
Yes, we do. As many vets as they could, but the abrupt closure of the program caught them off guard. How much more does this have, Colin?
I don't have anything else
Yeah,
on my
that's too
list.
much. Yeah, it's too much.
I don't have
So-
anything else on my list. So
Yes,
yeah.
I have one more. The point of this story, which again brings everything full circle, is that if you sign up to serve this country, you will never be appreciated, treated with dignity and respect that you so rightly deserve. And again, not everybody who joins the military goes to serve in combat. Frankly, it's not a very big percentage. Obviously, that's going to grow exponentially because of all the problems we're having. But needless to say, this is where we are, and it's only going to get worse.